The diplomatic shuttle crossed the dark space between Saturn's rings and the massive alien station floating above them. Commander Daewon Park sat in the passenger section, watching the structure grow larger through the window. It was beautiful in a strange way. All silver curves and glowing lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. This was humanity's big moment. After 200 years of looking at the stars and wondering, Earth finally had the technology to reach out and touch them. Daewon adjusted his uniform one more time. Behind him sat Dr. Hana Kim, Earth's smartest scientist, along with 12 other delegates representing every major nation. They carried with them humanity's application to join the Galactic Council, thick documents detailing Earth's achievements, culture, and technology. Everyone back home was watching. Every screen on Earth showed this moment. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. The airlock opened, and Daewon stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. Aliens of every shape and size walked past them. Some had 4 arms, others had scales that shimmered like oil on water. A few looked almost human, while others defied description. None of them paid the Earth delegation any attention. A tall, thin alien with purple skin and eyes like black glass approached them. It wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal. "You are the humans," it said, its voice coming from a translator device on its chest. "Follow me. The council will see you now." They walked through corridors lined with windows showing the rings of Saturn. Daewon's heart pounded. This was it. Everything humanity had worked for since the day they invented the faster-than-light drive 3 years ago came down to this meeting. The council chamber was enormous, shaped like an amphitheater with a domed ceiling showing the stars. Hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows, all looking down at a small platform in the center. That was where the Earth delegation would make their case. High Arbiter Velthus sat on the highest throne, a being that looked like a massive insect made of golden metal. His voice boomed through the chamber without any translator. "Humans of Earth, you have requested membership in the Galactic Council. We have reviewed your application. We have questions." Daewon stepped forward, his voice steady despite his nerves. "We're honored to answer any questions the Council has." Velthus leaned forward, his compound eyes gleaming. "Your species achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 years ago. Most species master this technology centuries before applying for membership. Why should we consider such a young race?" Hana Kim moved beside Daewon. "Because humanity doesn't wait. We learn fast, we adapt. In the past century alone, we've gone from chemical rockets to FTL drives. We've eliminated most diseases, connected our entire planet through communication networks, and united our world under one government for the first time in our history. We're ready." A ripple of sounds moved through the chamber. Some aliens seemed to be laughing. Velthus made a clicking sound that the translator interpreted as amusement. "You think 3 years of FTL travel makes you ready? We have species here who have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are crude. You still use kinetic projectiles and nuclear fission. You have no plasma shields, no antimatter reactors, no quantum disruptors." Another council member spoke up, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with tentacles of pure light. "Your submission shows you have 1 moon colony and 3 space stations. We have members with thousands of colonies and stations that span entire sectors. You are infants playing at being adults." Daewon felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We may be young, but we're innovative. We solved FTL travel in a completely different way than the standard council method. Our approach uses less exotic matter and is more fuel efficient." Velthus waved a metallic limb dismissively. "Different does not mean better. It means you stumbled onto a solution without understanding the principles. Your scientists admitted in your application that you don't fully understand why your drive works. That is not innovation. That is luck." Hana stepped forward, her face red. "That's not fair. Every species has to start somewhere. You can't judge us because we're new to this. Give us a chance to prove ourselves." The chamber erupted in sounds. Chirps, clicks, hums, and noises that human ears couldn't properly process. Velthus raised a limb and silence fell. "The Galactic Council has made its decision. Earth is developmentally insufficient for membership. You lack the technological maturity, the cultural sophistication, and the historical perspective necessary to participate in galactic affairs. Furthermore, we are imposing a quarantine on your solar system for a period of 500 Earth years. No council ships will trade with you. No council members will share technology with you. You may not leave your solar system except for scientific observation missions, which must be approved in advance. When your species has grown up, you may apply again. The words hit like physical blows. Daewon stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. 500 years. Everyone they knew would be dead. Their grandchildren's grandchildren would be dead. Earth would be alone, cut off from the galaxy, while the rest of the universe moved forward without them. Hana's voice shook with rage. You can't do this. We came here in good faith. We followed all the protocols. We've done nothing wrong. Velthus's tone became condescending, like an adult explaining something simple to a child. We can and we have. Perhaps in 500 years you will understand why this is necessary. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Species that advance too quickly without proper guidance often destroy themselves or others. We are protecting you as much as we are protecting ourselves. Go back to your Earth, play with your chemical rockets. Learn patience. Learn humility. When you are ready, we will know. The purple-skinned alien appeared again, gesturing toward the exit. The meeting was over. There would be no debate, no appeal, no second chance. The Earth delegation walked back through the corridors in shocked silence. Other aliens watched them now, and their expressions were easy to read even across species barriers. Pity, amusement, superiority. The shuttle ride back to the diplomatic ship felt like it took forever. No one spoke. What was there to say? They had failed. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they weren't old enough. Because they hadn't been playing this game for thousands of years like everyone else. Back on Earth, Daewon stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Every seat was filled. Every eye was on him. The disappointment in the room was thick enough to touch. He cleared his throat and began to speak. The Galactic Council has rejected our application. They've declared us too primitive, too young, too inexperienced. They've quarantined our solar system for 500 years. He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. They think we're children who need to be kept away from the adults' table. They think we'll either destroy ourselves or embarrass them. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as he could. They're wrong. They've made a mistake. Not because we're secretly advanced enough already, but because they've given us something more valuable than membership. They've given us motivation. They've given us a challenge. They think we're primitives? Let's prove them wrong. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then someone started clapping. Another joined. Within seconds, the entire General Assembly was on their feet, applauding. Not celebrating their rejection, but accepting the challenge it represented. Earth had been dismissed, insulted, and cast aside. But Earth wasn't going to give up. They were going to do what humans did best. They were going to survive, adapt, and overcome. And one day they would return to that council chamber. But next time they wouldn't be asking for permission. They would be demanding respect. 40 years had passed since the rejection. Admiral Tae-Jin Song stood on the observation deck of the military station, hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Neptune, where no council ship would think to look. Through the thick glass, he watched another ship roll out of the construction bay. The vessel was massive, dark gray with no markings or lights that might give it away. It was the 700th ship Earth had built in secret. Tae-Jin was old now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. He had been a young lieutenant when Daewon Park made that speech to the UN. He remembered the fire in those words. He remembered the promise. Earth would prove them wrong. And slowly, quietly, they were doing exactly that. The door behind him opened, and Engineer Soo-Min Lee walked in, carrying a tablet. She was younger than Tae-Jin, maybe 50, with streaks of white in her black hair and permanent dark circles under her eyes from too many late nights in the lab. The compression drive tests are complete, she said, her voice tired but satisfied. We can reach speeds 80% of what the council ships can manage, and our method uses half the exotic matter. We're ready for mass production. Tae-Jin nodded slowly. The compression drive had taken 30 years to develop. Unlike the council's FTL technology, which created stable wormholes, Earth's drive compressed space itself, pushing the ship through the universe like squeezing water through a tube. It wasn't as fast, but it was reliable, efficient, and most importantly, it was completely different from anything the council used. They had built it from scratch with no help, no stolen technology, no borrowed science. It was purely human. How many ships can we retrofit per month? Tae-Jin asked. Soo-Min checked her tablet. With the new production facilities on Titan and Europa, we can upgrade 50 ships per month. At that rate, the entire fleet will have compression drives within 2 years. 2 years. Then they would be ready. Not for war necessarily, but for whatever came next. Earth wasn't planning to attack anyone, but they weren't going to be caught unprepared ever again. The galaxy had dismissed them. The galaxy wasn't watching. That was Earth's advantage. Captain Bora Choi commanded the outer defense stations, a network of hidden bases scattered throughout the Oort cloud, that vast sphere of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. Her job was to make sure no council ship could sneak into human space without being detected. It was lonely work, months at a time in the cold dark, but it was important work. She sat in her command chair, reviewing sensor data, when her communications officer called out. "Captain, we're picking up a signal. It's faint, but it's definitely artificial, coming from outside the solar system." Bora sat up straight. "Council? Unknown. The signature doesn't match anything in our database. Could be a probe, could be a scout ship. It's maintaining position about 2 light years out, just sitting there. For 40 years, no council ship had come anywhere near Earth. The quarantine had been absolute. If someone was watching them now, that changed everything." "Go to silent running," Bora ordered. "Kill all non-essential emissions. I want that contact tracked every second. If it moves, I want to know immediately." The station went dark, its systems switching to passive sensors only. Bora stared at the screen showing the distant contact. Were they being watched? Had the Council noticed Earth's military buildup? Or was this something else, some other species curious about the quarantine system? It didn't matter. Whatever it was, Earth would be ready. Dr. Jinwoo Kang worked in a laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars, in facilities that officially didn't exist. He was a weapons designer, and his job was to turn Earth's primitive technology into something that could compete with the Council's advanced arsenal. The problem was simple. Council ships had energy shields that could absorb or deflect most energy weapons. They had armor made from exotic alloys that could survive temperatures that would vaporize steel. They had weapons that could tear apart molecules and disrupt atomic bonds. Earth had none of these things. So Jinwoo went a different direction. If you couldn't go through the shields, you went around them. If you couldn't match their exotic technology, you made your basic technology so effective it didn't matter. He stood in the testing chamber, watching through reinforced glass as a railgun fired. The weapon used electromagnetic coils to accelerate a solid metal slug to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile hit a section of captured Council armor at the far end of the range. The armor, designed to resist plasma and particle beams, shattered like glass under the kinetic impact. Jinwoo smiled. Energy shields were designed to stop energy. They weren't as effective against solid matter moving at extreme speeds. The Council had gotten so focused on exotic weapons that they'd forgotten the basics. A rock thrown fast enough could kill just as effectively as any particle beam. His second project was even simpler. Fusion warheads. The Council used antimatter weapons which were powerful, but required complex containment and were vulnerable to certain countermeasures. Fusion bombs were crude by comparison, but they were reliable, cheap to produce, and the Council's shields weren't optimized to stop them. "Sir," his assistant called out, "we're ready for the cyber warfare demonstration." Jinwoo moved to another lab where a captured Council computer system sat on a table. It had been recovered from a probe that had drifted into the solar system decades ago. The Council thought their systems were unhackable, protected by quantum encryption and AI security that had evolved over thousands of years. They hadn't counted on human creativity. Earth's programmers had spent years studying the alien code, looking for weaknesses. They found them. Every system had vulnerabilities. Every AI had blind spots. And humans were very, very good at thinking outside the box. The assistant activated the attack program. Within seconds, the Council system's lights blinked, flickered, and went dark. "Full system compromise," the assistant reported. "We have complete access. We can read their data, control their functions, or brick the entire system." Jinwoo nodded. The Council fought wars with honor, with rules, with civilized protocols. Earth didn't have that luxury. They would fight dirty if they had to. They would hack, deceive, and ambush. They would use every advantage they could find. Because when you were the underdog, you couldn't afford to play fair. 140 years after the rejection, Earth had transformed itself. The solar system was no longer just one planet with a few stations. Mars had 3 billion people living in underground cities. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn hosted research facilities, shipyards, and military bases. The asteroid belt had been mined extensively, its resources feeding Earth's industrial machine. And everywhere, hidden from casual observation, were the ships. Thousands of them. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and the crown jewels. The dreadnoughts. Massive vessels twice the size of the largest Council warships, carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. Admiral Tae-Jin Song was long dead, but his successor, Vice Admiral Yan-hee Bae, continued his work. She commanded the Seoul Defense Fleet from the bridge of the dreadnought Incheon, the first of its class, named after the city where the first FTL test had succeeded all those years ago. Yan-hee was younger than Tae-Jin had been, in her 50s, with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She walked through the ship's corridors, watching crews train, checking systems, making sure everything was perfect. Because they all knew the truth even if no one said it out loud, the waiting was almost over. Earth had been silent for 140 years. They had taken their punishment, accepted their exile, and used every second of it to prepare. The Council thought they were still playing with chemical rockets. The Council was about to learn how wrong they were. In her ready room, Yan-hee looked at a photo on her desk. It showed Commander Daewon Park, long dead now, standing before the UN General Assembly on that terrible day. She read the quote beneath it, words that had become Earth's unofficial motto. "They think we're primitives. Let's prove them wrong. We're ready," she whispered to the photo. "We're finally ready." Fleet Captain Myung-Soo Han sat in the command chair of the UESS Incheon, watching Mercury grow larger on the view screen. The small planet closest to the sun glowed with an orange light reflected from the star's surface. It should have been empty except for the automated mining stations Earth had placed there decades ago. Instead, his sensors showed 15 large ships in orbit, all of them bearing the insignia of the Corvian Empire. "Captain," his tactical officer called out, "the Corvian ships are deploying mining equipment on the surface. They're setting up what looks like a large-scale extraction operation." Myung-Soo's jaw tightened. Mercury was inside Earth's quarantine zone. The Council had been very clear about that 140 years ago. No Council ships were allowed in the Sol system. Earth couldn't leave and the Council couldn't enter. It was supposed to be absolute. Yet here were 15 Corvian ships, casually violating the quarantine as if it meant nothing. Myung-Soo had his orders. The United Earth government had been very specific. Any violation of the quarantine was to be met with immediate force. No warnings beyond the first, no negotiations. The time for talking was over. "Open a channel," Myung-Soo ordered. "All frequencies, make sure they hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Myung-Soo spoke clearly and calmly. "Corvian vessels, this is Fleet Captain Myung-Soo Han of the United Earth spaceship Incheon. You are in violation of the Sol system quarantine established by the Galactic Council in the year 2157. You have 1 hour to cease operations, withdraw your equipment, and leave this system. If you do not comply, we will use force. This is your only warning." There was a long silence. Then a voice came back, mechanical and arrogant, through the translator. "Human ship. This is Corvian Mining Fleet Delta. We have authorization from the Corvian Empire to extract resources from this uninhabited planet. Your primitive quarantine has expired. Return to your planet and do not interfere with Council business." Myung-Soo looked at his first officer, a woman named Hee-won with 20 years of service. She shook her head slightly. The quarantine hadn't expired. They still had 360 years left. The Corvians were lying, assuming Earth was too weak or too stupid to challenge them. "Tactical," Myung-Soo said quietly. "Target their lead ship. Railguns only. Put a shot across their bow, close enough to scare them but not close enough to hit." "Yes, sir." The tactical officer's fingers danced across his console. "Firing." The Incheon shuddered slightly as the railgun fired. A solid slug of metal accelerated to enormous speed, crossed the distance between the ships in less than a second. It passed within a few hundred meters of the lead Corvian vessel, close enough that their sensors definitely detected it. The Corvian channel crackled to life again, the voice now angry. "Human vessel, you dare fire on us? You will regret this action. All ships, raise shields and prepare weapons. Teach these primitives their place." Myung-Soo sighed. He had given them a chance. "All ships," he broadcast to his small fleet, "weapons free. Disable their vessels. Avoid casualties if possible, but protect yourselves first." The space around Mercury erupted into chaos. The Corvian ships activated their energy shields, the protective barriers shimmering into view. They fired particle beams and plasma cannons at the human ships. It was an impressive display, the kind of firepower that would have terrified Earth 40 years ago. But 40 years was a long time. The human ships were smaller, faster, and they moved like nothing the Corvians had ever seen. They didn't fly in neat formations or follow predictable patterns. They scattered, using evasive maneuvers that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. The engine took a plasma hit to its forward shields. The energy dissipated harmlessly. Earth's shields might not be as strong as Council designs, but they were good enough. And what Earth lacked in raw power, they made up for in tactics. Fire railguns target their shield generators, Myung-Soo ordered. Missiles target their engine sections. Let's end this quickly. The railgun slugs punched through the Corvian shields like they weren't there. The shields were designed to stop energy weapons, spreading and absorbing the impact. Solid projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed didn't care about energy dispersion. They hit with pure kinetic force, and the Corvian ship's generators shattered under the impacts. With their shields down, the follow-up missiles struck home. The Corvian ships weren't destroyed, but their engines went offline, their weapon systems failed, and they were left drifting, helpless. The entire engagement lasted 17 minutes. 15 Corvian ships disabled, 0 human casualties. Minimal damage to the human vessels. Myung-Soo opened the channel again. Corvian fleet, this is your final communication. You are now prisoners of war. Surrender your vessels and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you. Choose now. This time there was no arrogance in the response, only shock. We surrender. Don't fire. We surrender. The news reached the Galactic Council within hours. High Arbiter Vel'Thas, now ancient but still holding power, convened an emergency session. The chamber was in chaos, aliens shouting over each other, demanding answers. How could 15 Corvian ships be defeated by primitives? Someone demanded. The humans must have stolen our technology, another insisted. There's no other explanation. Vel'Thas raised a limb for silence. His voice was cold and hard. The Corvian commander reports that the human weapons ignored their shields. That the human ships moved faster than should be possible. That the humans fought without honor or following proper battle protocols. A council member who resembled a floating jellyfish spoke up. Then we must punish them. Send a fleet. Destroy their pathetic planet. They cannot be allowed to embarrass the council like this. Vel'Thas clicked his mandibles in agreement. Prepare a punitive fleet. 200 ships, enough to crush any resistance. We will show the humans what happens when primitives attack their betters. We will destroy their military, occupy their planet, and teach them respect. The order went out. Within days, the Corvian Empire assembled a fleet of 200 warships. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and carriers carrying thousands of fighters. It was a force large enough to conquer most civilizations. The fleet jumped to FTL, heading for the Sol system. They expected to find a primitive world with a handful of crude ships. They expected an easy victory, a quick punishment, and a return to the Council as heroes who had put the upstart humans in their place. They were about to learn that expectations and reality were very different things. Vice Admiral Yeon-hee, Bay received the warning from the Early Detection Network. 200 ships, Corvian configuration, entering the system near Mars. ETA to Mars orbit, 30 minutes. She sat in her command chair on the bridge of the dreadnought Incheon, the same ship Myung-Soo had commanded during the Mercury incident, now her flagship. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for their entire careers. Send the signal, Yeon-hee ordered. All ships fall back to the Oort cloud. Let them think we're running. The Seoul Defense Fleet, 60 visible ships, began retreating from Mars orbit, heading toward the outer system. The Corvian fleet followed, confident in their superior numbers. They moved into the solar system, passing Mars, heading toward the asteroid belt. They're spreading out, the tactical officer reported. Looks like they're preparing to chase us down individually. Yeon-hee smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Good. The more spread out they are, the harder it will be for them to support each other. Activate the stealth fields. All ships. Around the Corvian fleet, space began to shimmer. One by one, 3,000 human warships decloaked, appearing from nowhere, surrounding the Corvian force completely. Ships above, below, in front, behind. The Corvians were in a sphere of human vessels, outnumbered 15 to 1. Yan-He opened a channel to the Corvian fleet commander. "This is Vice Admiral Yan-He Bay of the United Earth Space Forces. You came to punish us. You came to teach us a lesson. But you're the ones who need to learn. We are not the primitives you remember. We are not weak. We are not helpless. You have one chance to surrender. Take it." The Corvian commander's response was defiant. "We are the Corvian Empire. We do not surrender to primitives." "All ships attack." Yan-He's smile faded. "So be it. All ships open fire." The space around Mars lit up like a new sun being born. 3,000 human ships fired at once. Railguns, missiles, lasers, and weapons the Council had never seen before. The Corvian ships tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered, surrounded, and facing technology they didn't understand. One by one, the Corvian ships fell. Their shields collapsed, their hulls were breached, their systems failed. Some tried to run. The human ships were faster. Some tried to surrender too late. Yan-He's orders were clear. They had one chance. They refused it. 43 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 200 Corvian ships destroyed or disabled. The few survivors were taken as prisoners, their crews shocked and broken. Yan-He sat back in her chair, suddenly feeling very tired. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that Earth's quarantine is over. Tell them we're coming. And tell them that if they want war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." Supreme Commander Jae-Sung Park stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, staring at the massive holographic display showing the known galaxy. Red dots marked Council member worlds, blue dots marked human-controlled space, and scattered throughout were green dots, worlds that the Council called protectorates, but which were really just occupied territories, species deemed too primitive to govern themselves. Jae-Sung was the grandson of Daewon Park, the man who had stood before the Council 140 years ago and been humiliated. He carried his grandfather's name and his grandfather's anger, but unlike his grandfather, Jae-Sung had 3,000 warships and a population that wanted revenge. "The Council is in chaos," Intelligence Director Min Seo-an reported. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see through everything. "After we destroyed their punitive fleet, half the member species are calling for peace negotiations. The other half wants to mobilize their entire military and crush us." "Which side is winning?" Jae-Sung asked. "Neither. They're paralyzed. They've spent thousands of years being the strongest force in the galaxy. They don't know how to handle being challenged." Min Seo pulled up data on her tablet. "But that won't last. Eventually they'll organize. When they do, they'll come at us with everything they have." Jae-Sung nodded. He had expected this. "Then we don't give them time to organize. We hit them first. Not everywhere. Just the 3 Council members who voted most strongly for our quarantine, the Corvian Empire, the Thelian Confederacy, and the Rexian Union. We show the galaxy that actions have consequences." "That's a bold strategy," Min Seo said carefully. "It could unite the Council against us. Or it could fracture them further," Jae-Sung countered. "Some species will see us as liberators. Others will be too afraid to act. And some will start wondering why they're taking orders from a council that can't even protect its own members." He turned to the hologram, pointing at specific systems. "Send Battle Group 1 under Commander Hyunwoo Nam to the Corvian home system. Battle Group 2 under Commodore Eunji Yang will liberate the Protectorate worlds in the Outer Rim. Battle Group 3 stays here to defend Seoul. We move in 72 hours. Battle Group Commander Hyunwoo Nam led a fleet of 500 ships toward the Corvian home system. He was a careful man, in his early 40s, with the kind of patient personality that made him perfect for complex military operations. He didn't want glory. He wanted results. The Corvian home system was heavily defended. Orbital stations, defense satellites, patrol fleets. It was designed to be impregnable. But Hyunwoo had something the Corvians didn't expect: information. For the past year, human intelligence had been infiltrating Council networks, stealing data, mapping defenses. They knew where every weapon was placed, where every weak point existed. "Jump in at the outer system," Hyunwoo ordered. "Stay out of range of their fixed defenses. Launch the cyber attack first." The fleet emerged from FTL space near the system's edge. Immediately, specialized ships began broadcasting complex code toward the Corvian networks. The attack was elegant and brutal. It didn't try to destroy the Corvian systems. It just confused them, made them think everything was fine while actually feeding false data. The orbital defenses reported all clear. The defense stations thought they were fully powered when they were actually offline. The Corvian patrol fleets received orders to maintain position when human ships were already entering the system. By the time the Corvians realized what was happening, human ships were already in orbit around their homeworld. "Broadcast the message," Hyunwoo ordered. His face appeared on every screen in the Corvian system. "People of the Corvian Empire, this is Battle Group Commander Hyunwoo Nam of the United Earth Space Forces. We are not here to conquer you. We are not here to kill civilians. We are here to end your government's ability to threaten Earth. We will destroy military targets only. Evacuate all military installations. You have 1 hour." True to his word, Hyunwoo waited exactly 1 hour. Then his ships methodically destroyed every military base, shipyard, and weapons factory in the system. When Corvian ships tried to fight back, they were disabled, not destroyed. When stations surrendered, they were spared. The message was clear. Earth was strong enough to destroy the Corvian military, but civilized enough to spare civilians. "This is going to make us famous," Hyunwoo's executive officer said quietly, watching the operation unfold. "Or infamous," Hyunwoo replied. "Depends on who's telling the story." While Hyunwoo dealt with the Corvians, Commodore Eunji Yang led her fleet to the Outer Rim, where 6 species lived under Council protection. The Shalani, small blue-skinned people with 4 arms. The Rithani, aquatic beings living in water-filled habitats. The Kree, insectoid hive minds. And 3 others, all kept technologically primitive by Council order, prevented from advancing, used as cheap labor and resource colonies. Eunji was younger than most of the senior commanders, only in her mid-30s, but she had grown up hearing stories about Earth's rejection. She knew what it felt like to be called primitive, to be told you weren't good enough. She volunteered for this mission because she wanted to give these species what Earth never got: a chance. Her fleet arrived at Shaylin, the first target. Council peacekeeping ships orbited the planet, a small garrison force. Eunji opened a channel. "Council ships, this is Commodore Eunji Yang. We're here to liberate Shalan. You can withdraw peacefully or we can make you leave. Your choice." The Council commander, a being from some species Eunji didn't recognize, laughed. "Liberate? We're protecting these people from themselves. They're not ready for independence." "That's what they told Earth," Eunji replied. "We disagreed. So do the Shalani." She switched channels, broadcasting to the planet below. "People of Shalan, Earth offers you alliance, not rule. We'll share technology, help you develop, and defend you from anyone who tries to stop you. But the choice is yours. Do you want to be free?" The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the planet, Shalani took to the streets demanding the Council forces leave. The Council commander, faced with a popular uprising and a human fleet, decided discretion was the better part of valor. They withdrew. Eunji repeated this at 5 more systems over the next month. Not all went smoothly. At Rotha, the Council garrison tried to fight and was destroyed. At Kremor, the hive minds initially refused to trust anyone, Council or human, and Eunji had to spend weeks negotiating before they agreed to an alliance. But slowly, methodically, Earth was building something the Council had never imagined: a coalition of the dismissed and ignored. Species that had been kept down for centuries now given a chance to rise. Back on Earth, Intelligence Director Min Seo-an was doing something even more devastating than the military campaigns. She was releasing data: 140 years of intelligence gathering, stolen files, intercepted communications, financial records, all of it showing exactly how corrupt the Council really was. Council members taking bribes, species kept primitive deliberately so their resources could be exploited, peaceful civilizations destroyed for minor infractions. War started for profit. The Council sold itself as a force for civilization and order. But the data showed something different: an empire built on exploitation, maintained through violence, justified with lies. Min Seo released the data everywhere: on human networks, on captured Council systems, on neutral worlds' communication channels. She made sure every species in the galaxy could see it. The Council tried to suppress it, claiming it was fake, but the evidence was overwhelming and verifiable. Within weeks, protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Council members faced angry populations demanding answers. Some governments fell. Others instituted reforms. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was the catalyst. Supreme Commander Jae-sung Park watched the reports come in from his war room. 3 Council members had been defeated militarily. 6 protectorate worlds had been liberated. The Council's reputation was in ruins, and Earth had only been fighting for 2 months, sir. An aide approached him. We're receiving surrender requests from 2 more Council members. They're offering to acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and withdraw from our space. Accept, Jae-sung said immediately. Make sure the terms include reparations and technology sharing. And we want war crimes trials for anyone who violated the quarantine or abused protectorate worlds. The aide nodded and hurried off. Minseo approached, looking satisfied. We're winning, she said simply. We're not done yet, Jae-sung replied. The Council is wounded, but wounded animals are dangerous. Veltas is still in power. He's not going to accept this quietly. As if summoning him by name, an alert came through. A message from the Council, directed personally to Jae-sung. He opened it, and Veltas's face appeared on the screen, the old alien looking even more metallic and insectoid than before. Commander Park, Veltas said, his voice cold. You have won some battles. You have embarrassed us, but you have not won the war. If you do not cease your attacks immediately, we will mobilize the entire Council fleet, 10,000 ships. We will destroy Earth and every world that supports you. This is not a negotiation. This is a final warning. The prison cell was comfortable, which somehow made it worse. High Arbiter Veltas sat in what humans would call a chair, though it was modified for his insectoid body, looking out through a transparent wall at the garden beyond. The garden was beautiful, carefully maintained with plants from a dozen different worlds. He was not in a dungeon. He was not in chains. He was simply being held in a secure facility on Earth while awaiting trial. The door opened, and President Ji-hoon Kwon entered. The human leader was in his 50s with gray hair and the kind of face that showed he smiled often. He sat down across from Veltas, setting a tablet on the table between them. High Arbiter, Ji-hoon said politely. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. As if I had a choice, Veltas replied, his translator rendering his clicks and chirps into bitter words. What do you want, to gloat? To tell me how you defeated the mighty council? Ji-hoon shook his head. Actually, I wanted to ask you a question. Why did you really reject Earth's application 142 years ago? Veltas was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Because we were afraid. Not of what you were, but of what you might become. We watched your planet. We saw how fast you advanced. From steam engines to space travel in less than 2 centuries. Most species take thousands of years for that journey. You did it in a fraction of the time. So you quarantined us out of fear? Ji-hoon asked. Out of self-preservation, Veltas corrected. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We created order from chaos. We ended the Great Wars. We established peace. But that peace required stability. And stability required keeping everyone at approximately the same level. Species that advanced too quickly disrupted the balance, so we slowed them down, for the good of everyone. Ji-hoon leaned back, his expression thoughtful, except it wasn't for everyone's good. You kept species primitive so you could exploit them. You prevented advancement to maintain your power. The data we recovered proves that. Some of us believed we were doing the right thing, Veltas said quietly. Others knew the truth and didn't care. I was somewhere in between. I convinced myself that the sacrifice of a few species was worth the stability of the galaxy. And now? Ji-hoon asked. Veltas looked at the garden, at the alien flowers blooming in Earth's soil. Now I know I was wrong. You proved it. You advanced faster than any species in history, and you didn't destroy yourselves. Instead, you're building something new. Something better perhaps than what we created. Ji-hoon stood, picking up his tablet. I came here to tell you something. Earth isn't going to execute you. We're not going to lock you away forever. Instead, you're going to help us build what comes next. You know how the Council worked, what its flaws were, how it failed. That knowledge is valuable. Will you help us? Veltas stared at the human president, his compound eyes reflecting multiple images. You would trust me? After everything I did? Trust is earned, Ji-hoon said. But everyone deserves a chance to earn it. That's what makes us different from the Council. We believe in second chances, even for our enemies. 3 months later, the former Council station had been transformed. The massive structure still orbited in neutral space, but now it hosted something entirely different. The first meeting of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 53 species filled the chamber, including the 6 liberated protectorate worlds, former Council members, and neutral species that had stayed out of the conflict. President Ji-hoon Kwan stood at the central podium, not elevated above everyone else like the old council chamber, but at the same level. This was democracy, messy and loud but fair. We gather here today not to replace one empire with another, Ji-hoon began, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. Earth doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be part of it as equals. The Galactic Assembly will have no permanent members, no species with veto power, no hereditary rulers. Every world gets one vote. Every species has a voice. Decisions will be made by majority, and leadership will rotate every 5 years. A representative from the Thelian Confederacy, one of the 3 council members Earth had defeated, stood up. And what happens when we disagree? When we can't reach consensus? The old council may have been flawed, but it was efficient. Democracy is rarely efficient, Ji-hoon admitted, but it's fair. And fairness is more important than efficiency. Yes, there will be arguments. Yes, decisions will take time. But every species will have a say in their own future. No one will be dismissed as too primitive ever again. A small blue Shalani representative spoke up, her voice tentative. What about protection? The council, for all its faults, provided security. Without them, what stops stronger species from conquering weaker ones? Commander Seo Park stepped forward. She was the great-granddaughter of Daewon Park, young and confident, wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Initiative. That's where we come in. The GDI is a volunteer force with ships and personnel from multiple species. We train together, fight together, and defend together. Not to enforce one species' will, but to protect everyone's rights. She pulled up a hologram showing mixed crews on ships. Humans working alongside Shalani, Rathani, and even some Corvians who had defected from their old military. We use human tactics and technology, but we're not a human force. We're a galactic force. And our mission is simple: no more conquest. No more exploitation. No more keeping species down because someone decides they're not ready. The debate continued for hours, which was exactly as it should be. Representatives argued about voting procedures, about resource allocation, about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. It was chaotic and sometimes frustrating, but it was alive in a way the old council never was. Finally, after 8 hours of discussion, Ji-hoon called for a vote. All in favor of establishing the Galactic Assembly as proposed with the charter we've discussed, say aye. A chorus of voices, chirps, clicks, and sounds filled the chamber. The translator system struggled to keep up. When the count was finished, 47 species had voted yes, 3 had voted no, and 3 had abstained. The motion passes, Ji-hoon announced. The Galactic Assembly is now the recognized government for member species. May we do better than those who came before us. The chamber erupted in celebration, different species congratulating each other, making alliances, planning futures that hadn't been possible under council rule. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was a start. That evening, Ji-hoon stood on an observation deck, watching ships from different species coming and going from the station. Velthus approached, moving slowly on his metallic legs. The former High Arbiter had been appointed as a special advisor, his knowledge of galactic politics too valuable to waste. You did well today, Velthus said. Better than I expected. Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment, Ji-hoon replied with a slight smile. It is. Velthus moved beside him, looking out at the stars. I have been thinking about your grandfather, Daewon Park. When I rejected Earth's application, I thought I was protecting the galaxy. Now I wonder if I wasn't just protecting my own power. Maybe both, Ji-hoon said. People rarely act from purely good or purely bad motives. We're all complicated. Your species has taught me something, Velthus continued. The council believed that order required control. But you've shown that progress requires freedom. We kept species down because we feared change. You embraced change and became stronger for it. A young woman in a GDI uniform approached them. It was Seo Park. Mr. President, we have a situation. A new species just achieved FTL travel in the Gamma sector. They're broadcasting a request to meet with whoever's in charge of the galaxy. Ji-hoon and Velthus exchanged a glance. How advanced are they? Ji-hoon asked. About where Earth was when you applied to the council, Seo replied. Brand new FTL, no shields, basic weapons. They're excited and nervous. Ji-hoon felt something twist in his chest, a memory of his grandfather's humiliation, of Earth's rejection. Prepare a diplomatic ship. I'll go meet them myself. Sir, you're the president, Sioa protested. You can't just, I can and I will, Ji-hoon said firmly. When Earth reached out to the galaxy, we were rejected and humiliated. These people deserve better. They deserve to know that the galaxy welcomes them, not as subjects or primitives, but as equals. He turned to Velthus. Wanna come? Maybe you can make up for that rejection 142 years ago. Velthus made a sound that might have been a chuckle. Why not? I have nothing better to do. The diplomatic ship, a sleek human cruiser with GDI markings, jumped to FTL. They arrived at the coordinates within hours, finding a single small ship, barely larger than Earth's first FTL prototype. The ship was crude but functional, held together with determination and hope. Ji-hoon opened a channel. A face appeared on the screen, an alien with green skin and large eyes, clearly nervous. This is Captain Rin of the Villani people. We're looking for... We've just achieved faster-than-light travel. We want to know, is anyone out here? Ji-hoon smiled warmly. Captain Rin, this is President Ji-hoon Kwan of the United Earth Government representing the Galactic Assembly. Yes, we're out here, and we're very happy to meet you. Welcome to the galaxy.